Yo, what's going on, YouTube fam? This is your boy J Money here, and I'm bringing you guys that special deck profile that I promised you guys last video, and that's featuring Nekroz. One of my absolute favorite decks of all time. I've been playing it for the past 2 weeks, and it's super great, and it's really powerful and all that stuff, even in today's standards, with the main problem is Droll and Lockbird. But, as a lot of you have already figured out, I have indeed, we did it. We finally reached 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. You guys are absolute fire. You have no idea how much that means. So, without further ado, as promised, these two right here will be given away. So, with that being said, what I'm going to do, since we have a lot of names here, now right here, it may not look like a lot, but there's at least 50 names in here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just do a nice little scramble, to make sure that the people that have done it, who have entered like at the very start of this giveaway, have an equal shot as the people who have kind of came in later. Hold on. Let's scoop this up. Alright. Now, forgive me for how caveman this looks. I honestly don't know any other way to do this, so if you guys know a better idea to where it's like caveman friendly and all that stuff, by all means. Oh, one just fell out. I wonder what this is. Well, that'll be our first random. Let's see. Oops. For say, so the Jaden 10, it goes to, alright, Hockey Crafter 608. Congratulations, this one is yours. Now for the next one. Hopefully no others can fall out, so I can just randomly just get one out of nowhere. So we're going to go ahead and get one. There we go. Alright, let's see. Let's go and turn this bad boy around. And this is going to Daniel Tozzolino. Congratulations, you got the Usei 10. Yeah, so congratulations, guys. Be sure to either contact me or I'll end up finding you through YouTube. I'll try to figure out some way to get a hold of your contact information. I'll get these bad boys sent. And overall, be sure to, send you guys' pulls. Let me know what you guys pulled. So, congratulations, guys. You guys are just a portion of my growth, and yeah, you guys have. Everybody contributes. It always takes a village. So, without further ado, let's get started with this deck. So, before I even start, Nekroz, for those of you who haven't been in 2015 era, like kind of mid-pendulum era. For those of you who don't know, Nekroz is essentially the ultimate anti-extra deck. Let me go ahead and put this closer. There we go. It is the ultimate anti-extra deck that really punishes extra deck type decks. So let's go. We'll go ahead and get started, and you guys will see my choices. So starting off with the limited rituals in the deck, we have Nekroz of Bryonic and Nekroz of Unicorn. Now, these are limited for a reason. This here is the best ritual in the entire deck, especially in 2018 standards, because when it is on the field, it is consistently negating the effects of anything that resides from the extra deck. So it is literally a walking skill drain for anything from the extra deck. So if you are facing down a U board, who cares? Just activate Kaleidoscope, drop Unicorn, turn the board off, and you're likely going to win that game. Not only that, but it also has an effect to discard to add any Nekroz card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, before that effect came up a lot because it was at 3. Now it's limited. It doesn't come off nearly as much. So all the Nekroz rituals have on-field effects, and they have effects. There's some kind of discard effect. So that does make him susceptible to Call by the Grave. Bryonic is your other limited card. This one allows you to discard it to add any Nekroz monster, ritual or main deck kind of monster, and when it is on the field, you can target up to 2 monsters that was summoned from the extra deck and return them back to the extra deck, which is really good for opening the board for problematic monsters and doing a bunch of damage. Next, 3 Colossalus. This one allows you to discard it and add a Nekroz spell card to your hand, which the only Nekroz spells are ritual spells. And its on-field effect, during either player's turn, you can target any monster that was summoned from the extra deck, reduces attack to 0, and negate its effects. And it's a quick effect, so it's nice quick effect stun to things like Isolde, Summon Sword, Firewall, etc., you name it. Next, for our big guys, we got 2 Valcke. For those of you who haven't caught them, these are Italians, by the way. So, same with the Brio. Valcke, what this allows you to do, on the field, you can activate its effect, and then if it resolves, you can tribute up to 2 monsters from hand or field, including himself, and draw that many cards. But if it's in your hand, if your opponent declares an attack, you can reveal this card in your hand, banish a Nekroz card in your graveyard, discard it, and if you do, negate the attack and end the battle phase, and all that good stuff. So that Valcke has actually been the card that has been hit by Call by the Grave the most for the past 2 weeks. It's gotten hit by Call by the Grave at least 6 times. It is incredibly annoying because, you know, you want to put Unicorn on the board and start breaking up some of their U-boards and some of their extra deck monsters, but sometimes there's some that Unicorn can't get over because it's only 2300, and so Valcke is needed to keep your Unicorn alive, because the longer you keep it alive, the higher chance you have of winning. But you know, when you discard Valcke's cost after you banish your card and they activate Call by the Grave, well, that kind of sucks. So here's where these other 2 come in. Nekroz of Gungnir and Decisive Armor. Let's start with Gungnir. Gungnir lets you discard itself to target any Nekroz on the field, and for that turn it can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects. It's a very nifty effect. Also, while it's on the field, during either player's turn, so it's a quick effect, you can discard a Nekroz card, then target any card on the field and destroy it. So it gives you that amazing quick disruption. That has came up a few times, especially against back row decks. This is also an anti-back row deck kind of card. This one, you can discard it and pump up any Nekroz by 1,000 points. So if your Valcke gets Called by the Grave, which there are some combos that I do to where I will end with Valcke in hand and this in hand, or this, depending on if I drew one of my other main deck monsters that I'll end up showing you. So your Nekroz is still safeguarded in case they do have Called by the Grave. So not only will this boost by 1,000, but at the same time, if he's on the field, once returned, you can target a set card on the field and just destroy it. So even if it's a set floodgate and they flip it over, since it says destroy it and not destroy that target, it'll still get destroyed. So there's no, no card is safe from Decisive Armor the moment it gets targeted. So in the last ritual monster, we have 1 Trishula because I only have 1. I would play 2. It's incredibly good. It is actually really next to Unicorn. Unicorn is your win condition turn 1. This is generally your win condition turn 2 or turn 1, because you really want to hard go second with this deck, because you want to punish your opponent for summoning extra deck monsters by dropping Unicorn, dropping Trishula, so it's actually live. Because with this one, when it's summoned, you can use the effect is the exact same as Trish, except with this one, you have to have, your opponent has to have a card in hand, a card on field, and a card in grave for you to trigger its effect. That's the thing on that one. So you can't go first and summon this and rip a card out of your opponent's hand, because they have to have a card on field and grave. But here's the thing. If you drop this, the moment it triggers, it will resolve, because it doesn't specify that it needs to remain on the field to resolve the effect. So once this triggers, let's say if your opponent like tries to play something like, let's say, a Phoenix Wing Blast and discard the last card out of their hand, Trish will still end up resolving, because all you need to do is trigger the effect. So for those of you who are trying to play against Nekroz, be sure you have an empty hand or an empty field before that hits the board. So that's it for the rituals. Next we got 3-man juice, it's a ritual deck. I mean, come on. Alright, next, we got some Deva rituals and or incantations, whatever you want to call it. We have 3 candles and 2 talismandras. Now, the reason why I play 3 of these is because there are so many ways to get spell cards to my hand. And so I want to see more of these than I do of these, because so many of your good Nekroz rituals or monsters are limited. They're all limited, all the really, really good ones. And so you really want to get it out. You want to be able to dig those out without having to use, like, let's say, Bryonic effect to get to other cards. You know, like to your Valcke, you want to use Bryonic to get to some of your main deck stuff so you can continue to plus. And so, I want to see this more than I want to see this, because if you see this, you can special this from the deck and add the monster. Not only that, but the fact that this is a level 4, and this is a level, this is a level 4, synergizes with Unicorn if it's in the grave, and Valcke if it's in grave or in hand within a level 4. And this being a level 6 makes it great target and great fodder for summoning Decisive Armor and summoning Brio out of the graveyard, because that will also come up to really open the board and go for an OTK. Next, we have 2 Zaborgs, the Mega Monarch. If you resolve this card, you win the duel, hands down. Now, what this does, like any other Mega Monarch, you can summon this by tributing 1 tribute summon monster, which doesn't happen, so you're gonna have to hard tribute 2 for this. But what happens is when you tribute summon this, you can target any monster on the field and destroy it. If it was a light monster, you have the option to send cards from your extra deck to the graveyard up to the total rank or level of that monster. So since this is a level 8, I can target itself, because it doesn't specify just an opponent's monster. Destroy it and send up to 8 cards from my opponent's extra deck, and my opponent has to send the exact same number of cards from their extra deck that I sent. So if I send 6, even though this is level 8, sometimes I will send 6, they have to send 6. If I send 8, they have to send 8. And so with extra deck.decks, it really, really, really hurts their strategy, especially if you first turn it. Not to mention, we play a lot of extra deck cards at plus when they hit the graveyard, which is exactly why you win. Next, we have 2 Gishki Shadows, because for those who are familiar with this deck, Shurit is still banned. Now, the moment we get that card back, these aren't needed. But the reason why I am playing Gishki Shadow is because it counts as the entire tribute for any water ritual monster. That includes Nekroz. It doesn't have to be strictly Gishkis. Which is really, really good when you have when you combo this with Cycle and summon any of your big stuff from the graveyard, reviving your Trish, getting its effect, reviving your Decisive Armor, your Valcke, when you just sacked it off to draw some cards. It's really, really huge. And the fact that it's a level 4, it's good. Now, next, for the last 4 monsters, we are playing Nekroz main deck monsters. Ariel, Enforcer, Sorcerer, and Dance Princess. With these 4 cards add, like, I guess the most important layer of consistency to this deck, because it gets you to exactly what you need when you use your Bryonic. Because you don't want to use your Bryonic to search ritual monsters. You want to use your Bryonic to really search this one, because this gets you to any of the other ones that you need. So, with this one, you can, when it's on the field, you can reveal any number of Nekroz cards and either increase or reduce its level by the number of cards you revealed. But its main effect that you want to use, when it's tributed, you can add any Nekroz monster that's not a ritual, so any of these other 3. With this one, this is the second most important one, because it also allows you to search. When this is tributed, you can add a Dragon Nekroz ritual from your deck to your hand. The only one that we play is Decisive Armor, but it's more important in its other attributes. For one, when it's banished, you can special summon a banished Nekroz. Now, since all Nekroz ritual monsters have to be ritual summoned, you can't revive those. You can't summon those from the graveyard without using something like a Nekroz cycle. So, how you would use these, this, generally, I would summon Valcke with this, Using this, search this, use Valcke, sack this off, draw some cards, search Decisive Armor. I now have a 4 and a 5 resting in the graveyard, so I can mirror, banish these to summon Trishula, getting this effect to summon Ariel back from the banish zone, activating another ritual spell, tributing this, and perhaps searching this or searching Dance Princess so I can get this back. So that's why this is also really good, because you don't have any level 5s to summon Trishula really easily. This fills that void. And it's a Nekroz that rests in the graveyard, since it's a since you can banish with Nekroz Mirror. Next, we have Great Sorcerer. If this is tributed, you can add a spellcaster type ritual. So you add your Nekroz of Unicorn, which is spellcaster your Gungnir, which weirdly enough is not a dragon. Or you can add your Valcke. But also, when it's banished, you can send any Nekroz monster from your deck to the graveyard. I've never once used that effect. I don't know if I ever will. But it's a level 4, and it gets you adds to more Valks if it's already in your hand. And it gets you adds to Gungnir, so you can have extra protection for your Unicorn. Next, with this one, this is really good. First off, if it's on the field, your opponent can't activate any cards or effects in response to ritual summons. And all that good stuff. Also, your Nekroz ritual monsters can't be targeted. They can't be targeted, which is really huge, especially since a lot of things in this day and age target Widow Anchors, Afterburners, you name it. If it's tributed, you can also target a banished Nekroz, and it can be a ritual monster, which is really good, and you can add it to your hand. So if you banish, like say, Brionic for a mirror, you can tribute this and add it right back to your hand, so you get more searches. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Onto the spells. The best ritual spell, Kaleidoscope, because it lets you resource your extra deck instead of using resources from your hand, which is huge. And really, you're sending either Quasar or Herald 9 times out of 10. Now, sometimes I will send a Fusionist or a level 6 Synchro because they do come up for opening OTKs. Next, we had Cycle. Now, before Shirt got banned, this, in my opinion, was the best spell because you can continuously cycle your Shirt and continuously resource your rituals from the graveyard over and over again without having to use your hand, which was phenomenal. So, oh yeah, all of these, you contribute non-Nekroz monsters as long as they're in your hand or on the field. All of them do that, but you get additional ways to summon rituals. This one lets you resource from the extra deck to summon your ritual monster from your hand. This one lets you ritual summon your Nekroz monsters from the graveyard. And this one will let you banish Nekroz monsters from the graveyard, so you don't have to sack anything. Now, all of these have grave effects too. If you control no monsters on the field, you can banish any one of them and any other Nekroz card and add a Nekroz spell from your deck to your hand. You can only use those effects once, for sure. And you can only activate one of each ritual once per turn. So keep in mind, if you open like a way to get to like 4 ritual summons, you can't play them. Once you play your cycle, your Kaleidoscope, and your mirror, it's over. You know, that's it for the turn, so you have to make them count. Next, spells, we have the best one, Preparation Rites. I really wish you could pre-prep because that would be like busted, but obviously you can't do that. Next, we are playing a 42 card deck. This, I really don't want to play this card. We have this deck right here has 29 searchers. 29 searchers in this deck. That includes the spells, the Nekroz spells when they're in the graveyard. The only reason I play this is because of Joel and Lockbird. Joel and Lockbird really shits all over this deck. This deck gets really shut down by Joel and Lockbird. You can easily play through Ashwasm because of the sheer amount of search cards you play. If you don't include the ritual spells, you're playing 21 search cards in your main deck. Just in your main deck. If you want to include the ritual spells, you're playing 29. 3 Heralds make 32. Last spells, Legacy of the Duelist. For those of you who do not know, Legacy of the Duelist. Why we play this? We really use it for the last effect, but since there's more back row decks just coming out of the woodworks now, we're seeing more back row decks being played. This has a lot more uses now. So it's a lengthy text. So anyway, what it does is when any of your monsters declare an attack, you can target any spell trap your opponent controls, negate the attack, and if you do, you can blow up that card. Not only that, but each player can only set one spell or trap per turn. So if you're playing against Altergeist or Inspector Border Dot deck or whatever, they can only set once. They can't set more than one, which is really freaking huge. Dealing with one back row per turn is infinitely better than having to deal with just 4 at once. Not only that, but the main reason we play this is during the draw phase, instead of conducting your draw, you have the option to give up your draw and add any monster from your grave to your hand. So you can add your Bryonic to your hand, you can add your Manju to your hand. Like, there's so many good cards that if you don't want to bank off a random draw, you can add basically any card from your graveyard that'll essentially search anything you want, which is generally Manju and or Bryonic. And that's really, really huge. The longer that stays on the board, which it has against like decks like Invoked and stuff, it's really annoying for them to deal with. So now we're on to the extra deck. Now for our 8 go-to targets that we want to send for Megas aboard, the Mega Monarch, we're sending these. Herald, we all know when it's sent to the grave you can add a ritual, monster, or a spell. This is generally used in Infernoids for Tierra, but when this hits the graveyard you can destroy a card on the field. And you send these because you want to cycle like a Herald back and use this to cycle maybe like a Bryonic or a Unicorn back into your deck from the graveyard. And so yeah, so you'll send, so if you blow them out turn 2, you can search 3 times, blow up 3 cards, and you can Omega for a Herald right back, activate Kaleidoscope, summon your Unicorn, and search it yet another time. So we have 3 more Kaleidoscope targets that's not Herald. And we got this for our Colossus because this definitely comes up. This for our Bryonic, that comes up. And this to summon Trishula and Colossus because that comes up. I've never used this to summon Valcke and Unicorn because I always Kaleidoscope for a Unicorn. And I almost never have Valcke and Unicorn in hand at the same time. Next we have a Diamond Direwolf. It comes up quite a few times to out those problematic cards like what's his name, like a Goza match if you want to summon Manjus, and or if you want to summon these. Outer Entity Nyarla. This is what gave Nekroz a consistency back in 2015, but we never had this card. So what this allows you to do, its XC summon effect is irrelevant, so it doesn't matter what the real effect you want. You can detach as many materials as possible on this card. Attach a well, first off, you target a monster in your graveyard, detach all your materials, then attach that target to itself. So while you play this, you want to attach Herald of the Arclight to this card. So you can go next turn and detach the Herald and attach something else, and voila, you just got another search. Now, if you had a way to get 2 of these into the graveyard, you can literally just target one Herald, detach Herald, attach the other Herald, and just continue to search over and over and over again. And, of course, since we are playing Nyarla, we are playing Azathoth. I only summon this when I'm getting ready to go for a game. When I'm ready to go for OTK, I'll detach off Nyarla if Herald is under it, or even if it's not. I'll attach the Herald, and I'll just go summon Azathoth. When this is summoned, you know, this is the infamous one. When it's summoned, your opponent cannot activate monster effects for the rest of the turn. It does not activate. It just applies that condition the moment it's summoned, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So no hand traps, no Macabas, no nothing. And so what I'll end up doing a lot of times is I'll just summon this and bust out Decisive Armor, Trishula, Valcke, and all that. And it's generally game. And if not, I'll just go main phase 2, sack this off with the Herald under it, draw some cards, and search some more cards. So that's it for the extra deck, guys. Side deck, I hardly ever go into it because the deck is just incredibly good. The only decks it really struggles against is back row decks. So that's why we got these Curse Seal of Forbidden Spells. it's literally only for 2 types of matchups, and that's Sky Strikers and that's Invoked, because you want to stop those Invocations at all costs, and you want to stop those Engages, and or Widowmakers, depending. Now, we only side one thing against the Goki matchup, and that's Sanctums, Moraltax, Scythe, and Lancia. I think I sided this against like one other matchup. Oh yeah, I sided this against an Invoked matchup because it actually comes up. Because with this, no Invocation. With this, no Makaba. I don't know about this. He was playing Mech Knights in his. Not only that, but he was playing Twin Twisters, so I sided these in. So if he blows them up, he gets punished for it. Next, we sided these cards a lot. 3 Dankos, 3 Roll Decrease, because fuck back row. Denko second is amazing, especially against the Altergeist matchup, because your opponent literally cannot set cards. Now, if they have impermanence, they can play it. But the beautiful thing about this is, if you're playing Nekroz and you have this on the board, you likely have Unicorn on the board, which means you likely search Valcke. So, even if they try to ram this, you can still Valcke and just, it'll be online the next turn, even if they set everything, which is beautiful. That happens a lot. If they don't get impermanence, it's good game. So they can't Milu ZQ either. They can't Milu ZQ. They can try to use Conquery and turn this off, but it's on your turn, so it doesn't matter. So you're going to end up just ramming the Milu Zeke anyway, and all that good stuff. And you're going to deal with the Conquery with things like Valcke and all that good stuff. And obviously Decree, because you don't want any trap cards. Like, literally, things like Imperial Order really fuck you. Anti-spells really screw you over, and all that good stuff. So, hope you enjoyed this deck profile, guys. It was a bit lengthy, but we did have to do this 10 giveaway on top of that. So, once again, let's see, what do you guys? Hockey Crafter 608 and Daniel Tizolino, congratulations on your 10s. Once again, I will try to get into contact with you, or you get into contact with me and send me your information, and I'll get these sent over to you in a jiffy. So, thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money, and I am signing out.